Hey everybody, I am here at an undisclosed lake location for the next couple of days, and I wanted to comment on a book that I'm reading right now. When I say reading, I spend a lot of time in the car, so there are certain things that I read on Audible, and I don't know if that really qualifies as reading because you can sort of I don't know, come in and out sometimes of certain things. You can find your mind wandering, but I guess that's true also when you're reading an actual book sometimes too. Anyhow, I'm reading Tom O'Neill's book about Charles Manson right now, and it's quite interesting to note a few things. First of all, I do recommend the book. It's interesting, well written, informative. All that stuff. At least it is so far. I'm about halfway through, and I think it'll probably stay on pace for the rest of it. But there's an interesting pattern that we see, and that is that it seems that in the 60s and the early 70s, there was an effort made by a couple of federal organizations, most notably the FBI and the CIA. FBI had their COINTELPRO program, if that's how you say it, and the CIA had a program called Chaos, which is the name of the book, Charles Manson, Chaos, and the something else. Anyway, you can just look it up, Tom O'Neill Chaos, and you'll find the rest of the title. So the feds, especially these two particular organizations, were sure that certain groups, certain dissident groups, namely black radical groups, anti-war groups, civil rights groups, were sure that these organizations must have been funded by, guess who? The Soviet Union, i.e., Russia. And so the CIA, this was the reason for the CIA's entree into this effort in the first place, because, as has often been pointed out, they're not even supposed to be a domestic organization. They're not supposed to have anything to do with domestic affairs. But I think we all know by now that there's no accountability with the CIA. They just do whatever they want and get away with it. But that was the justification anyway, and that people in power, both Democrat and Republican, both Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon and others, were sure that these groups must have had foreign funding. They must. It must be the result of foreign interference. That's what must be behind these various groups because of the disruptions that they were causing, and so they went ahead and did things like well the MO was not just to surveil these groups, not just to have people go undercover and say and then report back and say here's what they're talking about, here's what's going on, but in fact to actively attempt to disrupt these groups, to make these groups fight amongst themselves, and to foment chaos, hence the name Chaos. And of course, they had all of these mind control techniques at their disposal. There was all this research that had been done, and there were doctors like Dr. Jolly West, who was a notorious MK Ultra doctor, who specialized in inducing insanity and in making people who did not have mental instability, in making them become mentally unstable through various means. So whereas there was this, you could say, this kind of witchery that they, specialized in, that they highly funded it. They did a lot of research into how can we make a person go insane? How can we get inside someone's mind and make him believe certain things, make him, you know, uh, become paranoid, make him think that his friends are his enemies, and so forth and so on. And it's quite familiar stuff. The Manchurian Candidate type of techniques. These were used extensively and with great success on these groups, and they did foment a lot of chaos. They managed to make a lot of these groups turn against each other. Uh, you know, made there be internecine squabbling and chaos and confusion and violence. Um, and and the interesting thing now, the takeaway for me is now it's the same damn thing. The same thing is going on. We've got now, of course, the dissident groups, instead of being popularly thought of as left wing, are popularly thought of as right wing. But the FBI and the CIA still think that it's Russian interference. Still think that the Russians are behind it all. There's a great deal of continuity here, and they're still, I suspect, applying many of the same techniques. We do know that they're through what's been coming out, that they're doing what they can to suppress news stories that may be true, but that are if they're whether they're true or not, they say it's Russian disinfo. You know, I mean that's something we've all observed happening over the last few years. And we've heard over and over again that if this particular group and that particular group, it must be they're around because the Russians are making it happen, and certain people are getting elected because the Russians are making it happen. Uh, and so we've got to fight Russian interference. We've got it's those Russians. And so it's the same old song and dance all over again, with similarly, I would say, little evidence behind it. There was extensive Soviet interference during the 20s, 30s, and 40s. There were in that there were Soviet agents who were working, in high profile positions, because this particular mindset or mentality had become very uh, had become very popular amongst intellectuals. So, the original HUAC hearings, the original McCarthy hearings. Not that I justify all of that necessarily, or don't think that it was, it might have gotten overblown in certain cases, but at least back then there was some meat on those bones. But as far as the new left, the left that was that animated these groups, these organizations in the 60s and 70s, there doesn't seem to be the same kind of evidence of Soviet interference or the Soviets having really anything to do with these groups. And the similar thing is now. Again, it's the big bugaboo. Now they're not the Soviet Union anymore. They're not communist anymore. But it's still the through line is the same. It's Russia, Russia, Russia. Uh, and now highly suspects that COINTELPRO type of activities are going on amongst these dissident groups of today. It's just that everything has been flipped on its head from the way it was 50, 60 years ago. Back then, it was the dissident groups, the groups that were thought of as as insurrectionists, were the leftist groups, and now the power has pivoted to the left, or insofar as the the powerful organizations, or power in general, has taken on, has co-opted what used to be thought of as lefty positions, and now the dissidents are all people accused of being racist or sexist, or conservative-minded, or traditionalist in their perspectives. And now Russia is emerging. Whether to what extent this is authentic or not is for everyone to look at and decide for themselves. Russia emerges as this bastion of traditionalism, where they pass a law against gay propaganda that it passes the Duma, unanimously. There are no objections and gets signed into law. That's Russia today. You cannot proselytize homosexuality in Russia today, whereas in the West it's practically illegal to proselytize heterosexuality. And if you object in any way to anything that's part of this, the part of LGBT or feminism or anything like that, then they come after you, guns a-blazing. So it's just really weird reading this book about the Manson murders. And by the way, it would appear, if Tom O'Neill is right, that Manson was a CIA or an FBI or some kind of federal asset or informant, and that explains a lot of anomalies in his case. But again, that's something, if you're interested, check out the book and see for yourself. Take up and read, as St. Augustine says. But what I'm finding interesting, what I'm commenting on here, is just this strange phenomenon where everything is turned on its head, and yet there's also this strange continuity where it's always Russia. Russia is always to blame, and the feds are always saying Russian interference. It's the Russians who are behind this, that, or the other thing that's sabotaging where we want to go as a country. It's the same damn thing happening now as was happening then, just with a different tone or different framing. In that the dissident, the shoe is on the other foot. It was on the left foot in the 60s and 70s, and now it's on the right foot. There you go. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments below if you're allowed to. By the way, if YouTube says comments have been forbidden for this video, that was YouTube that did it, not me. Just wanted to tell you all that, because it's happened to a couple of my videos lately, so I can't say it's not going to happen again. That's for you, YouTube. Thanks for watching, everybody.